Welcome to SmithWeekly Discussions, an occasional program for our members of SmithWeekly Research. Please note this program is a private discussion and everything contained herein is for entertainment and educational purposes only. With that, we hope you're in a comfortable position along with your favorite beverage to enjoy the discussion. We remind our audience to examine our show notes attached to each of our shows to better understand how our program functions. Before we get into our discussion, we want to say thanks for questions coming from our audience of SmithWeekly, including Paul M., Brian H., Cindy W., and Mark R. We have a returning guest on the program today. Mr. Craig Parry is with us. Craig is the chairman and CEO of Vizsla Copper. The company is a British Columbia, Canada-focused copper project explorer and developer, advancing a number of projects in the province, including the Poplar project, which has a new copper discovery, as well as the historic copper resource Woodjam project. The company also is progressing exploration work at its other projects, including Copperview and Red Gold. Vizsla Copper is listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol VCU and also on the US OTC markets under the symbol VCUFF. Craig, great to have you back on the program.
Hey, Andrew. Fantastic. Great to be back with you, mate.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on, Craig. It's been a while since we've chatted, and certainly been a while on Vizsla Copper, which you guys have been hard at work here, and those fruits of the labor have been showing up here, so much appreciated. Well, why don't we get right to it? New porphyry discovery at Poplar, the Thira zone ongoing drill program in progress now. The company released that it had intersected 0.43% copper equivalent over about 345 meters on the first hole attempted on this campaign. Congratulations on that discovery. Talk about that as well as expectations for the ongoing drilling.
Yeah, thank you for that. And, I've been exploring for porphyry copper systems for 26 years. I've had some success with uranium and gold, silver, coking coal, and others, but never copper. So I'm thrilled that we've finally found one, and it's a big one. It's a beast. It's a beautiful location, just off the highway from south of Houston in British Columbia, off the major highway that goes to Alaska there. It's on a major haul road that goes down to the Huckleberry mine, which sits just to the south of us. So there's grid power, good roads across the property, and logging roads all across the property. So access is easy. I can't think of a better place to make a major porphyry discovery. And 400 meters at about 0.4% copper equivalent's a fantastic start. Very, very rare that you make a discovery with the first drill hole in a program. Some of the other things I've been involved in, took a lot longer to make those discoveries, albeit that, Next Gen's Arrow, I think we discovered that on about the 14th hole. And Vizsla Silver took us 7 holes to get there. But here we've, found something on the very first hole. Now that means one of two things: either the team's very, very good, or this is a large system, and it's hard to drill outside the boundaries of it. And so that I think it's probably both. In this case, it's a big system. It outcrops. We went out there. We acquired the property early last year. March, April last year. We were on the ground May last year, and we noticed that there was a very, very large alteration halo coincident with a mag anomaly, a large mag anomaly that's about 10 kilometres east-west by about 4 kilometres north-south. So that caught our attention. We went straight down to this area. There's an area down there called Copper Pond that has copper staining on rocks on a little bit of trenching that was done many, many years ago. That piqued our interest. We then went in and did more work, mapped the thing out, and we were astonished by the scale of it, of the anomalism. We focused on one area where we had a classic donut-shaped anomaly. Sometimes porphyries give you a layup in that they present themselves in magnetic data as a donut because you get magnetite destruction at the center of these high-grade systems. So that gave us a fair indication that there was something there. And the alteration you see in this area is this classic quartz sericite pyrite alteration, and over a huge area. And you typically only get that associated with a porphyry system. We then went and did, we already had resistivity data over it. and MT data. That started to point to potential for a porphyry system there as well. We then went and did soil geochem over it, and a beautiful copper anomaly lights up at the centre of this big mag anomaly where this alteration is. So we thought we might be onto something. We then went and did IP over it, and the area lights up as a very strong chargeability high in the area of this quartz sericite pyrite. It's a very large anomaly, and at the centre of that there was a lower tenor anomaly, possibly associated with chalcopyrite. So, I've as I say, I've been doing porphyry exploration for 26 years now. I've never seen a more textbook target. So I think we went into the drilling campaign when we started a few weeks ago very confident that there was something there. And lo and behold, yep, the first hole hit. It's beautifully stockwork porphyry mineralisation. I was up there yesterday, just got back late last night from a trip to look at the core. We've now drilled a number of holes there, assays to follow, but certainly you see this this very strong potassic alteration, vast amounts of stockwork, a lot of sulfide, and thankfully a lot of chalcopyrite and molybdenum in there as well. Of course, there's some gold and silver at good grade there as well. And so that gave us, what amounts to a major discovery, 345 metres at 0.43% copper equivalent. There are high-grade zones in there. There's 53 metres at 0.53 copper equivalent. And there's indications that there might be some higher-grade mineralisation still. So it's, it's a big porphyry system. As I say, we've now drilled several holes, assays to follow. Those rocks are looking really good, and we're surrounded by some bigger and high grade systems as well. So the Huckleberry mine had some higher grade in it. Utsa, the Utsa porphyry, which is owned by Surge Copper to the south of us, that's got some quite a bit of 0.8% copper material in it. We know there's some higher grades lurking in that district. And then over at Berg and Berget, which again are owned by Surge Copper, there's 1 billion tonnes of about 0.4% copper there. And that's a fair indication as to where I think we're headed with this. We're in a terrain that has been fertile for the development of large porphyry copper systems. And I think this is going to be one. You typically, we're on one porphyry apophysis at the moment. We're drilling one porphyry system. And that system looks like it's probably about 1 kilometre east-west by 500 metres north-south. That has the potential to give you a very large, Berget type system that might, potentially 1 billion tonnes plus in those sorts of, well, there are already at Berget 1 billion tonnes plus on Surge Copper's ground. So we know they're lurking around. And the size of this anomaly suggests that there's multiple porphyry centres there. So I think what you're going to see from us over the coming months is a heck of a lot more drilling on this discovery now. So look out for a lot of good results to come as we continue to drill and get those samples to the lab in coming weeks and months. But I suspect, Andrew, we're going to be drilling here for many years to come to prove up a very, very large resources where we're heading. So a lot of forward-looking statements there. I'm very excited with what we've seen. The other great thing about what we've found is that it outcrops. Just a shallow sort of rind of a few metres up to 10 metres of shallow colluvial cover, and below that you're straight into mineralisation. So that's fantastic in the sense that, one day when we're looking to mine this, strip ratios may potentially be very, very low. So look, it's an outstanding discovery. The team, Steve Blower, Chris Leslie, and the rest of the team there have done a fantastic job to make this discovery.
Great. Appreciate that update. Very good stuff. And congratulations once again. Thoughts on any adjustments once you guys hit this? Any adjustments you saw in the field that you wanted to make, and then continuity? I know you had made some comparisons to some nearby deposits. I know this is early days and this is speculation. Seems these days, Craig, everything's a forward-looking statement between you and I. But anyway, the point is here, continuity. What do you think? Looks like you guys are onto something quite sizable here.
Well, the very first hole finished in a good grade mineralisation. still heavily stockwork, still potassically altered. You don't see that too much. I think the next couple of holes we're probably going to push a bit deeper to 800 metres or more, just to test the depth extent. But the lateral extent's interesting because it's as I say, a 10 kilometre long anomaly east-west and about 5 kilometres north-south. We drove along that anomaly again yesterday, and I was shocked at how much alteration the team has picked up in the past year and what they've defined there. I think, and also potentially very big on that sense. But the holes that we're drilling at the moment, these follow-up holes, have more stockwork porphyry alteration in them. I think that, this initial discovery is a verified and large porphyry system. And of course, porphyries, the great thing about porphyries is that they're big, diffuse systems and give you scale very, very quickly. We've now stepped out a long way to the east. Look out, as soon as we have assays back, we'll have them out in the next few weeks. But I think we keep hitting out there, so it's just confirming that this is a big, continuous, large porphyry system of good grade for where it is. But there are potentially other porphyry apophyses or porphyry plutons and emplacements along that anomaly that are hidden from us at the moment. The QSP, like if you look at the magnetics on our website, if you go to vizslacopper.com, the magnetics hide potentially that QSP halo. And we haven't done IP across the whole anomaly yet, and we haven't done soils across the entire anomaly. So we now need to get out and do that and better determine further targets along that big mag anomaly and through that alteration zone. But I suspect what's happening is that you've got this fully preserved porphyry system hiding under that anomaly, other fully preserved porphyry systems. And so what that might give you is a lead into a fully preserved porphyry system that includes some of the higher level, higher grade epithermals. And certainly up at the Poplar deposit itself, which is where all of the work on the property has been done to date, that was discovered back in the 70s. We did note that there are higher grade zones in there as well, up high in the system, and certainly some of the higher grades that we're hitting are very close to the surface here as well. So that suggests to us that under fairly shallow cover and potential sort of lithocap type rocks, that you might be getting further porphyry apophyses coming up through there that haven't been exposed yet and that may be fully preserved also. And so that means two things. There's potential to discover higher grade mineralization there, and secondly, there's scale. Of course, we know porphyries occur in clusters. Here already you've got two porphyry systems that have been discovered, the Poplar deposit and now Thira. I suspect there are many more to be found there, particularly along this very prospective Thira target zone that we've got. So I couldn't be more excited. It's a fantastic place to build a project as well. As I say, it's on that major road down to the Huckleberry mine. It's got grid power across the property. It's a very undulating, flat terrain that we can work year round on. Great place to have a project. Couldn't think of a better place, actually.
Absolutely. That's a good spot for sure. And BC is not a bad jurisdiction to be in for copper either. Craig, if things continue to go well here and you guys continue to hit good mineralization, would it be your expectation to ramp up drilling with more rigs, or what are you thinking here as far as continued success and speeding up?
Yeah, well, you mentioned an important point there. BC is a good place to work nowadays. When I flew up to site yesterday, I was actually on the same plane as Jagrup Brar, who is the recently appointed mines minister for British Columbia, and so it's great to see Jagrup out. He was out visiting 4 major projects, including Skeena's Escape Creek, which I'm involved in. I was the chairman of Skeena, of course, and on the board there. I remain on the board there. So great to see the BC Mines Minister and his full team out there looking at these things. He emphasised that they remain committed to permitting projects. I think Donald Trump's done us a favour in that some of these sort of more socialist governments in Canada have now realised that there is an economic imperative to getting projects like this built. So we're starting to see much more support. So I think BC is now once again a great mining jurisdiction, and you're going to see a lot of mine permits being issued over the coming months and years. So great place to operate. In terms of the program, there's a few things going on. I guess when you make a discovery, you sort of down tools a little bit and need to assess what to do properly next, because it does change your plan. I think it was Mike Tyson, I know, or Muhammad Ali said that, everyone goes into a fight with a plan until they get hit in the face. Well, here, everyone goes into a drill program with a plan until they make a discovery. So what we've decided to do is, given the funds that we've got available at the moment, take budget from what we planned at our Woodjam project. We've already made another discovery down there, and we'd like to get to drilling that out, but this is the burning priority right now. So we've taken budget from Woodjam, we've moved it over, we've increased the size of this program, we've doubled the size of this program. We're looking to do about 5,000 to 6,000 metres in this program. That'll give us about 10 holes. I think we're on drill hole number 5 at the moment. And those assays, so that guarantees, a lot of news flow over the coming months, and more eyeballs and interest will come to the story. And I suspect, given the scale potential here, that we'll end up having some majors very much interested in this. So we've taken budget. We're doing 10,000 metres. I think we'll then stop for a little bit and assess the data that we've got and figure out what to do next. We spent a lot of time yesterday looking at this, and you're hearing this in real time a little bit, and I'm sort of about to walk into a meeting with Steve Blower, our VP of Exploration here, to figure out exactly what we do. But there's things that we need to do immediately, and that includes a much larger soil campaign to look at the broader area here in the southern half of this property where we've made the discovery. We need to do more IP across the whole system so we can look for those other porphyry apophyses and then get to drill testing those. So I think we'll have a break while all that goes on, and then get back out here sometime late August and September and continue the drill program and continue to deliver good results, assuming it is what we think it is here that we've got. So a heck of a lot going on as we speak in the background here, a lot of working out what to do next. We've got the Copperview project just north of Kodiak's Gate Zone. Copperview, that's another exceptional target, and I very much want to see that tested this year. It'd be fantastic to make 2 discoveries in a year, pretty unprecedented in this day and age. So I want to get down and test that in September as well. So we'll see how we go with that. But suffice to say, the bulk of our funds are going to go on this Thira discovery for the time being. And I think the good news about that is that, given the scale of the system, we should be able to continuously deliver results for the coming months. And what a time to make a discovery. Copper at all-time highs. I see it's back at $5.70 today. Couldn't be a better place to be and a better time to make a discovery than today.
Absolutely. So it sounds like all hands are on deck there for work at Poplar. Yeah, curious to hear more about what the folks are seeing there on site with the drill core coming out, and of course assay results. So I expect we'll see more news in the coming weeks on that, Craig. I do want to have you touch on that just briefly here. The M5 target there at Copperview sounds like you want to keep a little bit of budget to go test that at some point, hopefully before the end of the year. What are you thinking there in terms of M5? How did you guys define that target? Just talk a little bit about that, and it sounds like you will test it hopefully soon.
Yeah, you bet. And it is all hands on deck. I think I got to bed at midnight last night. I was up again at 4:30 with this news release and getting things out, and a lot of investor interest. So I think our share price is up nicely this morning. So good to see. Copperview and that M5 target. Look, that's a beauty. If people go to our website, and I should also say, there's some outstanding photos in that news release on the discovery that we put out today, and you can see some of the intensely altered and intensely stockworked porphyry copper mineralization. It's just perfect looking stuff. It's what you really want to see in a discovery. You see a lot of sulfide. There's different types of there's chalcopyrite, but also other copper sulfides, including potentially a little bit of bornite there, and big blebs of moly as well. And molybdenum is so very important to the planet right at the moment. The moly price is doing very, very well, so it's great to see all that molybdenum in there as well. But yeah, back to Copperview. So It's funny how that came about. Steve Blower, our VP of Exploration, it's one of his favourite hunting grounds out there, and not only for copper but also for deer. He was on his annual hunting trip in that area a couple of years ago, and he stumbled across some copper-stained rocks only 5 kilometres north of Kodiak's gate zone. Kodiak put out a drill result, I think from memory, it was 585 metres at about 0.7 or 8% copper equivalent a couple of years ago. So that piqued everyone's interest. It drove Kodiak's share price very high back then. They've now proved up a large resource base just to the south of us, and that their discovery is only 5 kilometres away from us. And if people go to our website and look at the project data and some of the news we've put out about that, because we've done quite a bit of work over the past year on that target, there's a very prominent north-south mag lineament that probably is associated with the emplacement structure of these porphyry deposits in that area. That lineament continues right on into our ground just across the border from Kodiak's gate zone. And if you look at their deposits, there's Man, there's Gate, there's another couple that they sit on that mag lineament. And you need when you get a porphyry system, they're usually associated with some sort of structure that taps deep into the crust, that provides space and a conduit for these porphyry systems to come up through. Well, here we think that north-south lineament, that structure that trends onto our ground, is highly prospective. And where you get embayments in the mag lows on that lineament is where Kodiak's made its discovery. Well, we had a stonking great one 5 kilometres to the north in that M5 target. We did further work on that. We've now done some IP. We're just about to get the soil GChem back across that as well. And if that lights up and suggests that there's a copper anomaly over our target there, well, that's very good news, and we'll definitely be drilling that this September. But we did IP over it, and it came up with a significant chargeability high of the tenor that would be typically associated with copper sulfides and a porphyry copper system. So again, I think it's another outstanding target. Ticks all the boxes in everything you want to see. We've got one last little bit of work there in terms of the soil grid, soil geochem grid across the top of the target and surrounds. But as I say, if that lights up and there's copper in that, then this is an outstanding it already is an exceptional target, but it's a very good target if we get copper in soils across that target. So we'll get those results back. That'll help inform the drill program, but I definitely want to see that drilled this year, and it'd be lovely to make a couple of porphyry copper discoveries in 1 year.
Yeah, that would be fantastic, Craig. A good little portfolio coming here together. And I think, initially folks didn't quite see all the things you guys were putting together here, but now they're starting to pop up, and I think the market's starting to get attention on what you guys have going here, and could be quite a pipeline developing out here. And then, of course, we haven't even really discussed it other than the budget being pulled for now, but the Woodjam project and the existing resource there. Any plans now with the budget being pulled? I suspect you guys won't be doing much of Woodjam, but talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, you guys did add the red gold grounds as well, which is adjacent here. Just talk about that project, because we do have a new audience that isn't familiar with those projects.
As a lead into that, what I'd say is that in this part of British Columbia is, I think has the potential to become the next Chile in terms of copper production. There's a lot of big porphyry systems. Of course, there's some major mines. Taseko's, Gibraltar's just up the road. Their head grade now, I think, is about 0.2, 0.25% copper. So these big projects make money. And you've got further down the road near Kamloops there, or closer to Kamloops, Teck's major project down there, whose name, of course, is going to Hidden Valley. I was going to say going to escape me, but Hidden Valley's down the road. Again, a very, very big mine built on a porphyry copper system, and I think their head grade's now about 0.2%. And then further south, still in the same terrain, you've got Copper Mountains project in southern part of BC. That again, its head grade is 0.2% copper. So, in BC terms, what we've discovered here is actually fairly high grade compared to those projects. The majors are all there, and I can tell you, we're seeing them all come back in. You've seen Freeport come into British Columbia in a big way. BHP's here, Rio Tinto's back. Fortescue are kicking the tyres on everything as we speak. Fortescue have staked a hell of a lot of ground around our projects as well. South 32 is very active in the province. Vast amounts of money are being invested in the province again, and the majors are starting to see the opportunity. So Woodjam, we've got some outstanding things there. We've got a large resource base, and I should say across the company at the moment, the resource base stands at nearly 4 billion pounds of copper and close to 2 million ounces of gold right at the moment. I think Thira and this discovery is going to add massively to that over the coming years. But Woodjam's a great project in the sense that we've got a large resource base to find on 3 porphyries already. Previous explorers have found another 2 porphyry systems. We found the megaton system 18 months ago, and I think that that absolutely warrants further testing, because I think that'll turn into a further porphyry system. And there's some high grades there. 33 million tonnes of the resources at about 0.7% copper equivalent, fairly close to surface. So there's higher grade systems on Woodjam as well. Thira necessitates our interest for the time being. We'll continue, and we will get back to testing further targets at Woodjam and drilling out the higher grade resource base over years to come. But at the moment, you've got to sort of focus your energy and efforts on a new discovery of the caliber of Thira. So it's parked to some extent, and I make the point about the majors and those mining projects around us, in that there's a lot of interest in BC at the moment. We have those large resource bases already. We've got a huge amount of exploration targets, porphyry targets to test. And so at some point, I'd love to see one of them come into the company or farm into that project and help us explore it, because we've just got a vast number of targets that demand testing.
There's a lot of projects here going on, and then you guys, as you said there, you highlighted the portfolio. There's lots of work on the development stages of things here, Craig, with respect to Woodjam. There's the expansion potential there. There's all those things that need to be worked through in the years to come here. Any comments on the Red Gold acquisition there as far as the additional grounds? What's the strategic thinking with that as far as continuity of existing deposits, the trend? What's the thinking there with that strategic move?
Yeah, so Red Gold's contiguous with our property and abuts up against the Mount Polly leases that are owned by Imperial Metals. So our combined Red Gold and Woodjam property is only 10 kilometres away from that major Mount Polly mine that Imperial Metal operate. Again, they operate at the sorts of grades we're finding here at Thira and that we already have at Woodjam. When you get an opportunity to stake a district or acquire a district right next to an operating mine, people will often say that the best place to find a new mine is within the shadow of the head frame of a new mine. Well, certainly if you sit on top of the Red Gold property, you can see Mount Polly just over the ridge. So it puts us within a chip and putt of that major mine. It's good exploration ground. It's earlier stage than most of what we have, but it's been important to try and put our foot on it and explore that. We've done a little bit of drilling there. We haven't had any luck yet, but we'll keep the Red Gold property. But certainly, it has potential import longer term for what we do with Woodjam. The property package that we have, Keith Bodnachuk, our VP Corp Dev, has been very, very busy over the last couple of years consolidating everything that we see in that area that's prospective. So, having a larger, expanded property footprint in a proven porphyry terrain, we think makes good sense, where you can acquire those properties cheaply, and that's what we've done, and Red Gold fits within that framework.
Good job on that. And of course, Keith has got lots of things happening, super busy over there with COSA, and some good work coming there, I suspect, as well with COSA. So it makes a lot of sense as far as I'm concerned about creating a buffer and adding those grounds in the key areas is definitely a critical item here that you guys have been able to deliver on. So I do like the portfolio approach where you guys have a handful of projects, and maybe we'll be striking on more than one here soon. So very good stuff as far as the discovery side of things. On the capital structure, Craig, just give us a quick update here on where things stand with the cash and where you think that carries based on what we know today. Of course, we know that can change. And then also just highlight for the audience, some of the new audience, the key shareholders on the roster.
Yeah, so we've got, at the moment, we spun the company out of Vizsla Silver 3 years ago. largely to go after that Woodjam project. So we successfully did that. We like it for the big resource base it already has in place and the huge exploration potential. We then acquired Universal Copper back in March last year. That gave us the Poplar project. I'm glad we did that. We bought that for $2.7 million in stock. We issued both Woodjam Consolidated and Universal Copper's shareholders stock to make those acquisitions. So hence, we've got quite a few shares out. We've raised a lot of money in the last couple of years, and of course the market's been very, very tough for explorers over the last few years, as tough as I've ever seen. So hence, our share price hasn't performed well until now. And we've raised, of course, exploration is a cyclical and capital intensive business. So, we made no bones to our shareholders about the fact that we are drilling. And so we're going to raise money and we're going to keep drilling. And the only way to sort of avoid dilution in that environment is to keep writing checks. And thankfully, we're in a position here that my partners and I have been able to prop up the companies and write very big checks ourselves and keep the lights on. Well, more than keep the lights on, keep very effective drill programs and exploration programs going. So we've continued to do that. That sees us with 330 million shares or thereabouts out at the moment. We did a financing back in April. Andrew, we raised, I think, $5.6 million. My partners and I did probably a third of that. I think I put in about $800,000 myself into that financing. I've put in over $2 million of my own money into it so far. Based on this discovery, we'll continue to write big checks for what we're doing. Adam Lundeen once told me about the Philo discovery. They had that area for 20 years, the various Lundeen companies, NGX and Philo. And he said, well, we own the bulk of it now because no one else wanted to invest. So they've made billions of dollars off doing that. And we'll do something similar here. We'll continue to write big checks ourselves and support what we're doing. The shareholders, it's very much a retail story at the moment. The major shareholders, probably Dave Schmidt and I, a couple of high net worth individuals there supporting the company. But we really need to go through that transition phase. And if you look at my other companies, Skeena, ISO Energy, NextGen, we did the same. Vizsla Silver, of course, we've gone through that transition very recently from really a retail-led backstory to very much an institutional backstory. So we've got all the connections to all of those institutions that are important to this business. And we've, indeed made all of these fund managers a lot of money. So that's what we'll continue to do here. And I think you'll see us go through that transition over the coming years as fund managers return to the copper exploration space, where they've largely been absent for the last probably 10 years.
The trickling down into the small juniors has not quite hit us yet for copper either, Craig. And, certainly there's been a few exceptions out there. I mean, you mentioned the Jose Marias and the Filos and the Injects, all those, the Lundin Group and the success they've had there as well. Very good stuff. And I suspect as well, a few $1 million Canadian of your money is definitely a needle changer on your net worth as well. So the investment there on your side is definitely noted. So that's good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, I know we're a little bit short of time. Why don't we leave it there for now, short of any other comments you want to add here. But for potential investors who are listening in, the company has a market capitalization of about 50 million Canadian dollars. Why should Vizsla Copper be considered within the institutional, family office, and retail investors portfolio at this stage?
It really boils down to two things. Three really. People are important. The team's important. We've done this several times before. I think interesting stat, Andrew. There's only a little over 5,000 billion-dollar valued companies, billion-dollar plus valued companies on the face of the planet. Three of those I've either led, started, or been heavily involved in. That being NextGen Energy, Skeena, and Vizsla Silver, potentially ISO Energy. So we've got a track record of creating shareholder value through exploration and drilling, and indeed development. And that's an important thing here. We've also brought Simon Smirlek on board as a partner at Inventor Capital and the Chief Operating Officer of Vizsla Silver. And Simon's fast building up a world-class development team. Simon's probably the most prolific mine builder on the face of the planet today. When he was at Ausenco Engineering, which is the world's largest independent EPCM contractor for mining. Simon led the build of over 47 mines, many of those major, 13 of them world class. So we've now got a world class development team here in our various offices around the world, and that puts us in better shape than most people to develop projects as well. And look at Vizsla Silver, because we're well on our way to building one of the world's great silver companies and the fourth biggest silver mine on the planet. So Simon's leading that. So we've got great people. We've got a huge resource base already on the books, and I think the resource base that we have at the moment more than underpins the value of the company. So any discoveries that we're making here are just cream an additional benefit to our shareholders. And certainly, this Thira discovery. And if I've got one closing remark, I'm just looking at some Thira rocks as I speak. It's one of the best located porphyry systems I've ever seen in a fantastic location to build a mining project. A bit early to talk about building a project just yet, but geez, if you wanted to build a project, we're in a very good place to do it. The project, it's at surface. We're drilling mineralization right from surface. So the cost of testing these targets isn't too much. But the size of this anomaly that surrounds this discovery we've made is absolutely enormous. And I think that this could be something pretty special. So, I'm very, very excited with what we see here at Thira. And I think we're going to be drilling there for a long time. And hence there's going to be great news flow over the coming months and years as we sink our teeth into what is a tremendous discovery. I've got to congratulate the team on some great work to hit and drill 500 metres of copper moly mineralisation in the very first hole. Is an extraordinary outcome.
For further information, how best can folks get in contact with the company?
Contact details on the website there, vizslacopper.com, and that'll come through to the team. So certainly, we welcome all inquiry. Love to talk to investors and shareholders. So please go through that website. As I say, VIZSLA copper.com.
Great update today. Looking forward to seeing more results coming in the next few weeks and coming months. Best of luck there, and we'll be back in touch.
Fantastic, Andrew. Always a pleasure, mate. Thank you.